Good morning. Thank you, Cameron. Good morning. I'm Amy Landrum, Director of Campaigns and Creative Content for Texas Workforce Commission. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, whether you're in the room or joining us virtually. I'm so happy to be here with a powerhouse panel, and I can't wait to introduce them to you, although many of you have already heard them speak because they're speaking on several different panel sessions this event related to the topic of outreach. So first, let's give a warm welcome this morning to our panelists. On the far side of the room, Michelle Castrow, Manager of Strategic Planning for the Gulf Coast Workforce Board. Next, we have Bianca Cervantes, Communications Director for Workforce Solutions Borderplex. And Brian Hernandez, Chief Storyteller with Workforce Solutions Rural Capital Area. Just to give you a little bit of setup for this panel, the four of us met earlier this year as we were doing planning, calendar year planning for outreach. And we were talking about different challenges, kind of what was the challenge at the moment heading into this year, with everyone really coming off of nearly 18 months at that point of being in COVID pandemic recovery mode. Most of those on the front lines of outreach for the workforce boards had really shifted into a mode of crisis communications, of emergency response communications, really working on those direct response initiatives to enable customers to respond to opportunities that were available to them because of COVID recovery efforts. And so the thing that was really keeping everyone up at night was, how do we make the shift back to that strategic mode, that strategic communications mode that we had all been operating in prior to the pandemic? It wasn't as easy as everyone thought. You can't just draw a line in the sand and say, 1 minute we're done with reactive and we're switching over to proactive. Many of you in the room know what we're talking about, because even though you try to start getting back to that proactive strategic mode, there's still reactive opportunities happening day in and day out. So you really find yourself doing both. If you were already wearing more than one hat, now you're wearing 6 or 7, right, Bianca? So we thought it would be a good time to get together for this workforce forum and just talk a little bit about the importance of getting back to strategic, but also the challenges associated with that. The world has changed. Our customers have changed. We've all been talking about it, starting with Chairman's remarks yesterday, our keynote speakers, everyone has changed. What did we learn the last 2 years? Were we really doing everything the best way we could have before COVID? When we go back to normal, do we go back to what we were doing before, or do we need to make permanent long-term changes? And at what point does the new normal start today versus how many days in the future until we reach that? We don't know. We may not be able to answer all those questions today, but what we are coming to you today with is a start at what our panelists have learned, what they've observed, what they're doing now based on those learnings, and what's working. So what's really working today? So I'm going to, and by the way, we are having some technical challenges. So thank you so much for bearing with me as we navigate through this. They identified 5 key themes that they're going to talk to you about today, really looking at customer needs and behaviors and what's changed related to that. Second, the importance of developing multi-channel, multi-audience outreach. That magic bullet approach that everyone may have been doing on social media, it doesn't always work, and they're all learning how to make those pivots to better meet customers where they are online. Third, leveraging earned media to reach people in new ways. As people went back home, they started watching TV again during the day. How did our panelists capitalize on that viewership to bring in earned media opportunities to help people get back to work? How audience engagement with social has changed. The pandemic accelerated digitization and everyone's use of social. And then finally, what's working right now? What are they doing right now in their communities, in their 3 different board areas, and bringing some new best practices for everyone to consider as we move forward. All right, I am going to now shift over to changing needs and behaviors. And I'm going to invite our first panelist, Brian, to kick us off and talk a little bit about what's happening in your board area and how your employer needs have changed. You can come here. Do you want to stand here?
Sure, that'd be great. Hello, everybody. For those who were in the previous one, hello again. So really, the biggest challenge we were having that we identified as a board at multiple levels was that, our employers within our communities were really suffering. And this is not news for anybody in Texas or across the nation right now. The challenge we had, though, is that employers were advising us that they were pouring money into recruitment, pouring money into advertising. They just weren't getting qualified candidates, or pretty much in a lot of situations, candidates just coming forward to apply for their positions. And so what we devised as a board was the idea that, well, you know what, there's no better person out there to talk about a company than the company itself. Even if we were pitching to the media all the great things that were happening with certain employers, for us, the value was in having employers on their own speak to their culture, speak to their values, speak to the types of positions they have available, but more importantly, speak to the types of candidates that they were looking to recruit and the qualities that they were looking to bring in to their organization to solve their problems. One of the ways that we were able to do this, and we did this as a collaboration, and in the previous meeting, we talked about we have a weekly communications meeting every Monday. And this really stemmed from that meeting that we have every week, is that through our wonderful video producer, Angela Maldonado, what we did was we worked through our business services team to actually fan out across our region. And really what we tried to do is talk to employers that were willing to come forward and possibly, jump into a video. At first, it started out as during the pandemic, the height of the pandemic, as basically a Zoom session. And a lot of the ideas we had came from other boards as well. I know Stephen up in the greater Dallas area was doing a very great job of really interviewing employers and having like a live session. What we wanted to do is something a little bit different. It was actually more kind of a recorded session to allow employers to really, again, speak to what it is that they're looking for. And along with some B-roll that or basically video of their organization, either that they provided or that we provided. And during the height of the pandemic, that was really effective for us because it didn't take a lot of work. It really just took a little bit of scheduling. We just had to find some type of a virtual platform like Zoom in order to get them on there. And then we just kind of created just a series of questions that we would ask them about what it is that they were looking for and what do they represent and what matters most to them as an organization. And that has developed even more, again, changing strategies. Now that we're emerging from the height of the pandemic, we're actually able to visit employers. What we've been really trying to do is help employers not only talk about who they are and what they do and the types of people they're looking for, to really showcase what their businesses look like and to interview their employees about what it's like to work there. So we've got some examples here. I don't know if you want to go ahead and try to do those, but one of them is for Ember Industries, which is actually a big manufacturer in the Hayes County area. And the other one is for Horseshoe Bay Resort. I can talk a little bit more about Horseshoe Bay when we get up there, but we can start off with the Ember Industries, just kind of give you an idea of kind of what we were able to do with that.
Garcia. I'm the lead quality control inspector here at Ember Industry. I've been here for 11 years. It's a very family-oriented place, and I love it. This is like my second family.
Diana. What we're doing now.
as they're looking into it. Really, the challenge that Ember Industries was having is reflective about what a lot of skilled trades manufacturers are dealing with right now. Is that having entry-level workers is makes sense for them because they can actually train them in their way. It's great to actually recruit someone that has experience, but what they were looking for are people that will be very eager and hungry to want to learn how they build things. And what Ember Industries does is actually create the actual, those green boards that actually in every single electronic you can possibly think of. And what was wonderful about this was that actually we were able to actually pretty much walk around the entire facility to get, shoot video and take photos of everything we could see. And also that inspired them to want to work with us because one of the promises we made to them as an employer, to help an employer out was that we were going to provide them with all the video and photos that we shot so they could repurpose them for their own use in the future. Definitely encourage you to do that if you are going to be working with an employer and they don't have, especially a smaller employer or employer that doesn't have a video or outreach team. Definitely offer them back the content that you're collecting so that it's mutually beneficial for them as well.
Sorry. Despite all testing, we've had issues in every session today. So we're going to bring one other person up to see if he can get it figured out. Brian, feel free to keep talking.
Sure, no problem. One of the there are challenges, obviously. One of the challenges that we've experienced as well is we want to make sure that we match the vision of the employer.
We think we're ready.
Okay.
I think being involved with a family company is really rewarding. Our culture is very family friendly. We know our employees very closely. They know us, know our families, and it's really nice to work along with and alongside people that you share that family culture with. Hi, I'm Frank Leonardis. I'm the Vice President and one of the owners of Ember Industries in San Marcos, Texas. We are an electronics manufacturing company. The company was established in 1986. Our family acquired the company in 2001 and have owned and operated it since then. Many people ask us about being able to work together as family. I work here with both my brothers and my sister. That has grown over the years, bringing each of us in at different times. But all four of us are here today now operating the company. And it's really rewarding getting to succeed and work with your family. Most people say that they feel that would be very difficult, but we have made it work and found it very easy. And we certainly enjoy being here every day with each other.
My name is Rob Leonardis, and I'm the president of Ember Industries. All the products that we make have their own coolness factor to them. And the reason for that is they're all custom electronics. There's none of them you can just buy off the shelf. They're completely unique. They're only made for the one client and one client only. Our employees and myself have a lot of pride in the medical products that we make, the military products that we make, and there's a lot of really cool industrial things that we make. We're looking to fill positions that are in our stockroom for kitting and stocking jobs. We're looking to fill assembly positions in all areas of the factory. We're looking to fill mechanical assembly positions where you're actually using screwdrivers and wrenches and torque wrenches. We're looking to fill positions in soldering and learning how to solder circuit boards. We're looking for positions for cable and wire harness assembly, inspectors.
Some of the benefits that we offer for our employees are healthcare insurance, 401k, paid time off for vacation and holidays. A successful candidate working in Ember Industries really takes pride in the fine details of the work we do, wanting to do a good job for our customers, and takes pride in their work.
A typical day for me is I'll come in, I'll get my circuit boards and I'll inspect all the circuit boards that come to me, and inspecting it, it's what I'm inspecting is.
All right, so I know you guys want to continue watching. It's a really good video. Definitely check it out. But what I wanted to really point out here was that, again, what we were endeavoring to do was to really have the employer speak to who they are, what they stand for, when they get started, what they're, and then transition over to an employee to really share their experience and what their job is all about. But as I was mentioning a little earlier, the vision that the employer had for themselves, was, that they really wanted to share, we tried to capture. But one thing we always try to do is go a little bit further. And our wonderful producer, Angela Maldonado, and I, really what we did was we always tried to find, maybe because we both have news backgrounds, we tried to find the story within the story. So the story within the story here is that this is a family-run business. Just imagine running a business with 3 or 4 of your siblings. That's this company. And all of us were shocked at how well they got along. But they make it work, and they have been making it work for a very long time because they each bring their strengths and skills to their workforce. And in turn, what that does is it allows them to actually create an environment where everyone feels like family. And that's what you're going to hear as you watch the rest of the video. The other one I really want to share with you is another employer that has, like a lot of other hospitality employers, really face some serious challenges. This is Horseshoe Bay Resort out of Marble Falls. Beautiful place. If you've ever been there, definitely encourage you to check it out. They had to lay off staff at the pandemic, just like every other hospitality retailer out there or restaurant. And they had a really tough time recruiting back. What they did was they came to us, they spoke to our business services team, they worked with our leadership, and we identified for them the barriers to basically employment for a lot of the workforce that we have within our communities. And that included access to high quality childcare. That included obviously housing, affordable housing. That included transportation. That also included broadband, things of that sort, but then also upskilling opportunities. And those are all things that this employer didn't offer before. That employer offers all of those things now. And this is a video that kind of speaks to a couple of those elements that they've reintroduced. And from what I understand from them directly, they just had one of the most remarkably economically beneficial years they've ever had at this resort. And they are chock full of staff because they've been able to really kind of turn it around and really invest in their workforce in a very unique way. And again, they're sharing their story in their own words.
Be able to live somewhere where I can look up and see the stars at any given night. The air is fresh and clean, don't smell pollution all everywhere and things like that. I mean, it just, that the second night I was here, when I looked up and saw the stars, it was like, wow. And it was over the water too. So it was like the stars over the water. You can kind of see the stars on top of the water as well. It was just so beautiful. I was like, I'm done with the city. Hello, my name is Julian Rock. I work here at Horseshoe Bay Resort as a restaurant supervising manager. I have been here for roughly 3 weeks now, so I just started, but I'm loving how everything has played out so far, especially with the housing situation.
My name is Josh Biggs. I'm the employee housing manager for Horseshoe Bay Resort. I kind of oversee the housing needs of our employees. The housing market is pretty tough right now. There's a lot of demand and not nearly enough supply. So pricing is pretty high, cost of living is pretty high, availability is very low. People do have a tough time finding a place, and that's, again, kind of partly why we offer it is when people are relocating, they need to kind of get on their feet. So we'll generally provide temporarily up until they can find a place for their own.
Since it was such short notice, I didn't have time to look for a place. So they told me that they had housing either on property or off property that they have acquired for their staff. So I came up here on Monday and they literally had a place for me by Tuesday. So within a day, they had my place set up. fully furnished with all the amenities. I have a washer and dryer in my apartment, and it's only 10 minutes away from work, so it works out perfectly.
The application really is just the application for employment. Once you've been given an offer letter, at that point, then we could move you into our housing program.
So again, what we wanted to do with this was that the employer had a vision for themselves of really helping people see, that they were a great place to work, and that they, that they were offering some really unique incentives. What we found, and Angela was able to really tap into, was the idea of this brand new employee just moving there from Houston, who didn't know about anything in town, didn't know where to go, didn't know where to live, couldn't afford rent, because rent in this area, lakefront, is probably $2,000 a month. This employer offers apartments for $300 a month, provides transportation, provides obviously broadband, offers quite a significant training structure and career pathways to continue to increase people's their investment in each of their workforce members. And they're also developing their own childcare program on site for staff. These are all the things that employers, they may not even know the value of all these things fully. They're investing in them, but what that means for our workforce. So what we try to do with these stories, again, is allow the employer to speak for themselves, but then help out as much as we can. In this video, Angela did go around and shoot a lot of the shots that you're seeing now, but the resort provided all the B-roll, the aerials, and things of that sort, because they are partners. So the message for this I wanted to share with you is that don't be afraid to actually get out there, or work with the employer if you have to do it through Zoom, to actually work with them to actually showcase what they're doing. If they're looking for an opportunity to share who they are, what they're looking for, but more importantly, if you can actually include one of their employees, it'll actually humanize even more what you're doing with your outreach. And I'm very proud to say that this video on YouTube hasn't done as much as we've done in some of the other platforms, but what we've heard directly from the resort is that they have definitely got recruited people based on things that they're seeing here, things that people are hearing through this video. So thank you so much, and I'll be available to answer any questions as well.
Thank you, Brian. I'm going to stand up for those of you in the back. Michelle and I are barely 5 feet with heels, so I may want to make sure you can see us. So speaking on Brian's family friendly and being a good place to work, something that we've done over at Workforce Solutions Borderplex is team up with this national organization called Best Place for Working Parents. Some of you might be familiar with them. They're headquartered in Fort Worth, and I know they do have a presence here in Austin as well. And the point of this is to promote and advocate to be a best place to work. And it's a coalition nationally of municipalities, of organizations, and of employers. And it is to advocate for being a family-friendly business, because family-friendly means business-friendly. So this is how it works. And we took this assessment too, but we have employers locally take a 3-minute assessment to score themselves on how well they are doing these 10 policies, which range anywhere from paid time off, childcare assistance is a huge one, parental leave, flexible work, hybrid work schedules, and all of those bennies, what we call them #new bennies, that workers are looking for, that workers are selecting one employer over another. So the reason we're doing this is because we realize, A, there's a worker shortage, and that's what all of our employers are complaining to us about in business services. And on top of that, there is a childcare issue. That's one of the biggest issues that's getting in the way of work. And if you can look at some of these statistics here, I'm gonna take a guess. I want to say it's.
Would you like me to read them?
Yeah, if you.
I don't know what's going on there. 83% of millennials would love one job for another with stronger family-friendly supports. Replacing an employee costs an employer 6 to 9 months of that employee's salary. Over 60% of working parents said childcare issues have caused them to miss work. And finally, employers lose $13 billion annually due to childcare challenges faced by their workforce.
13 billion is a pretty big number. So what we started doing is having a campaign about being a best place to work. So we push this campaign, this 3-minute assessment for all employers to take, and that you get a score. And if you score well, you get a best place to work designation. So of course, at Borderplex, we put our money where our mouth is. And surprisingly, we did not score that well. We were still considered a best place to work, but we were at 50%. So I challenge all of you to go to borderplexjobs.com and have your employers take that. You'll see that we have a best place to work link. But when you realize that, we also realize we have to do what we're advocating for. So we're going back to the drawing board and ensuring that our employees at Borderplex are also taken care of, because we're also an employer. And so when we had these businesses take this assessment, those that did score high did get a reward. And just exposing how great of employers they are, we started, we gave them a certificate, and we had our hype team, one of whom is a former meteorologist that now does our economic forecast. It's a really cheesy spin on hot jobs, but everybody loves him and he has a huge audience. So we had Chuck DeBroder go around to all of these best place to work designations on Facebook Live, take them their certificate, and everybody wanted selfies with him. They didn't even care about being a best place to work. They just wanted to see Chuck. But it was a really great, rewarding experience, both for the employees to realize just how great their employer is, and for the employer to boast about it. So now they have it on their email signatures, they have the certificate at their offices, and we're also planning to do something similar. We're going to take a page off of Brian's approach and doing extended stories on why these employers are best places to work. But this is an ongoing campaign, so it's reactive to the worker shortage and the issue with childcare, but it's also proactive in ensuring that these employers are preparing for the future of work, and they're getting ready for what employees are demanding of them. So like I mentioned, and that's Chuck right there on that picture. One day we'll bring him to one of these panels just so you can know why he's so awesome. But I challenge you all to go to borderplexjobs.com and look up on the top right corner, best BP, it's the acronym, Best Place for Working Parents, and have your employers take the assessment, or even get a partnership with Best Place for Working Parents, because they're just doing such a great job at getting this momentum on the family-friendly approach to business. And that's a buzzword. I think that family-centered is going to be a buzzword, not just this year, but through the rest of the next few years, until things are equalized when it comes to childcare, wages, and employee benefits. So if I'm happy to answer any questions on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bianca. I'm going to go ahead and move us along to our next theme, which is multi-audience and multi-channel. We chose this graphic to kick this topic off with because it's kind of a reminder that the average adult is bombarded by over 200 messages a day, whether it's a text message on your phone, a social media message, driving by a billboard on your way to work, an email, all the email marketing that you're getting. So when we're all bombarded by so many different messages, sometimes it's hard to really zero in and take the time to see which messages really matter to you. So as outreach specialists, we have to take that environment in mind, whether it's working to get information out to our job seekers or to our employers. We have to figure out how to reach them, where they're going to pay attention to us, and how to get the right message to them at the right time. So to talk a little bit more about that, I'm going to invite Michelle to address the next topic and talk to you about some changes.
BJ was out there. He helped kick it off. That's important to us. It's important to me.
Michelle,
that is the level of
moment.
commitment that they brought to the table.
I think so too.
Saying yes, and I'll take it on.
Yeah, this is not one of our videos.
The follow through.
You know, I think one thing we all keep in mind is that the pandemic has kept everyone on their toes with technology and learning new technology. And so here we still are. Michelle. Oh, yes.
What do you guys think? It's on everybody's mind.
Would you like to stand here?
How about this? Okay, how about that one? Yes. Okay, wonderful. So thank you guys, and thank you for sticking with us. We are all communicators, so we have a lot to share. So we appreciate you hanging on with us because we have so much content to get through, and we've only made it through the first of 6 sections, and we're 30 minutes into this. So I'm going to try and move us along just a little bit. And what I really want to share with you guys is at the Gulf Coast Workforce Board in Houston, Texas, you know that we are big. And we have not only a lot of individuals to reach, our market is huge. We are the 7th largest media market in the country. And we also have a number of stakeholder audiences. You understand this, that as workforce boards, primarily we talk about reaching our job candidates and then our employers, but we also know that there are so many other people that we have to talk to, our partners, our funders, our elected officials, et cetera. We're also talking to teachers and students about career exploration. We're talking about individuals with special needs for all of our different outreach efforts. So we have an abundance of audiences. At the Gulf Coast Workforce Board in Houston, Texas. Again, forgive me, I get nervous and I start to ramble. But we, at the beginning of the pandemic, I made the strategic decision that regardless of where people were, we wanted to get them the critical emergency information that they needed. Therefore, on all of our social media channels, we were delivering the same information across every communication avenue we had available to us so that people could get the information that they so critically needed. But as everybody has pointed out, that was 2 years ago. We are now moving away from crisis response into this strategic communications era. And so putting those two things together of understanding that we have multiple audiences and we have multiple channels, the one thing that we have decided to do is up our social media game. So we have 3 goals with our social media. One is to increase perceptions of Workforce Solutions and the Gulf Coast Workforce Board. We want to continue to expand our audience. We right now have 18,500 combined across our main 4 channels, but that is just a fraction of the people that are in our market. And third, we want to increase and have deeper engagements, not just make people aware, that's great, but we want to have those meaningful, deeper relationships. So our approach to this, again, coming out of the pandemic, and if you follow us on LinkedIn, you can begin to see this because that's where it's a more focused audience. So you'll see that happen more quickly. But the approach that we are taking is on Twitter. That will be what we are calling our agency voice, or you might think of this as corporate communications and investor relations, right? These are the individuals who we want to make them aware, and we want them to understand that we are that we are thought leaders. We are part of the big picture conversation. And so then in LinkedIn, that is our employer audience and the professional audience. Moving into Facebook and Instagram, we focus on our job candidates and then our younger job candidates, keeping in mind that none of these channels are exclusive because everything bleeds across. But you will see that we have moved this into a graphic depiction. And so you can see that with the images, with the color palette, and developing the consistency of those different graphic elements, such as the various textures, which you can't necessarily see here, but when you see them on your mobile device, you will see those subtleties of how we are using different elements of our brand in order to focus and support the focused messaging across these different channels. So we are literally just starting this. So we're going to look at it periodically every 3 months to see what's going on. You guys know that everybody, like Amy's mentioned, we wear different hats. So we're going to give it a good 6 months to a year to give ourselves the opportunity to develop our practice and be able to look at the results that come out of this, because we do have performance indicators that we are striving for, on each of these different channels so that we can see, are we performing against what we think we are getting in order to, again, big picture, be able to more effectively communicate with our different stakeholder audience.
Thank you, Michelle. Panel, in the interest of time, I'm going to keep us moving along and we'll circle back to some of these slides. Thank you so much for your understanding, Brian. The next topic is earned media innovation. I mentioned earlier that one of the things that happened with so many people back at home out of the workforce for that time during COVID lockdown, people started watching TV again. And so there was this new opportunity to capture some daytime TV audience. Michelle's going to tell you a little bit about her successful programs, and then we have other panelists that have been working with media as well. Michelle? Did you turn the button?
Oh, how's that? Good. Okay. So again, earned media, as Bianca and I are kind of on this different ends of the spectrum. You know, not only do we have an age difference, but we have a difference in where we gravitate. And so she is going to give you so much great information about social. As she said it, my bread and butter is TV. Because again, we're in Houston, a great number of people to reach, but even with all of our social media, like I said, we're really only reaching about 18,000 people. That's barely a drop in the bucket. So we have taken advantage of our media partnerships. Every week, we are supplying content to 3 different media outlets, ABC 13, Fox 26, and Univision. And so at the beginning of the pandemic, we took advantage of the fact that people were home. With our social media, our reach was limited, but we took advantage of ABC 13s and were able to do virtual job fairs even before we had all of the different platforms that all of us have now. And so in about 6 months, we raked in almost 1 million views on our social media channels. Thank you. It's not because of us, it's because of these partnerships with our main media outlets. These partnerships do continue. And so a couple of things, we have given value to these stations. So after 2 years, they continue to invite us back. And that really is the magic of all of this and the magic of what you here have in this room, because it's all about the content. At the end of the day, we helped people get through the economic crisis. We helped people get back to work, but work and employment is still critical. We are able to relate to whatever is happening in the here and now and still deliver those workforce service messages. And so with that, I want to share this wonderful story. There's a couple of things that you should know. One is that Nick Notario, it has turned out to be an incredible human being. So he is a reporter, but he's not the only relationship that we have. And so while he is on paternity leave, I am working with a producer at ABC 13 because they have asked us to come back bigger and better. And that is so incredibly flattering because, again, it's the work that we all do every single day and people value it. It's our job to make sure that we are telling those stories and getting it in front of them. So we have some innovations, but what I want to do is share the last story that Nick shot before he went on vacation. And it was kind of flattering because ABC held this until it was time for sweeps. So again, we have value. It's our job to be able to package those stories so that the media can share them for us. And here we go.
Welcome back. For more than 2 years, ABC 13's weekly Who's Hiring job fairs have helped hundreds of people find work right here in our community.
Yeah, they really have. And we also feature some programs where you can earn while you learn. We showcased one a year ago. Afterwards, a father with a young child went from high school dropout to preparing to buy his first home. Here's ABC 13's Nick Notario.
With each strike, Rolando Cardona is piecing his life together.
The best thing to do is to look forward, never look back. You know, if you see an opportunity, take it and put it to the best use.
Words that weren't always easy to live by. Cardona dropped out of high school and had another unexpected surprise.
Whenever my wife got pregnant, I had to step it up a notch.
Cardona's life turned around after he got in touch with Workforce Solutions. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our weekly virtual job fair, an agency ABC 13 has partnered with for more than 2 years to help Houstonians find work. One of the places we highlighted was Apache, a place Cardona learned about after he reached out.
They connected with me real quick. They talked to me about different opportunities for me and stuff like that. And it all worked out very great.
Cardona got his GED. He also got into Apache's apprenticeship program.
I was excited. I was happy and ready to come out here and show them what I can do.
Candidates take a 2-week course to learn trade skills, including scaffolding, insulation, and painting. Afterwards, they're placed with professionals. Instead of loans, the students are paid to learn crafts.
Some of them are floundering and may not know what fields to get into, and to have a paved road into a profession, really, it's a career-long opportunity. It's awesome to see.
Apache has locations across the Houston area and country.
We certainly reach out to high schools and that kind of age demographic, but it is for anyone at any point in their career. If you're looking to make a change and maybe do something a little bit different, that opportunity is there.
Apache isn't the only Earn While You Learn program. If you want to learn more, Workforce Solutions is a place you can start. During our 2-year weekly event, more than 5,300 have applied, nearly 900 found jobs, and more than 300 have received resume assistance.
It's an MVP program, you know, it's very helpful, very, very helpful. It can help out millions of people, you know.
The first step that got Cardona on the right path, and in a matter of months has completely changed his life.
I'm actually buying a home now, and I'm just only 21 years old, you know, so it's very great. It's going great. I got my cars, taking care of my family's well fed.
A turnaround that gets better with each strike after Cardona took that initial step. Nick Notario, ABC 13 Eyewitness News.
So again, it is such a joy, such a pleasure, because the way I look at it, it reflects on what one of the speakers said yesterday. It's not the challenges, it's the opportunities. Rolando, we had the pleasure, we had the joy of being part of his career journey, because this young man was determined. He had the motivation. It was about us connecting him into, that little thing called a registered apprenticeship program. That little thing called adult education and literacy services. Notice that there were no acronyms. There was nothing about WIOA services or anything about how we paid for it. It was all about celebrating this individual. So again, an absolute incredible joy to be able to share these kinds of stories.
Thank you, Michelle. And now we'll transition over to our next theme, which is social engagement changes. And I'll invite Bianca to kick us off here while she's getting ready. When you look at this picture here, if you have kids, you can probably know what's happening. They're all engaged with one another. They're probably playing a game online, but they may not be making eye contact. So it's really important that we understand how people of all ages are engaging differently with social, and especially our young Texans. Bianca?
Thank you. And as a former producer, Michelle's magic is so appreciated when it comes to TV, because I remember being on, 10 seconds left to air, and somebody like Michelle would send a script and video and everything already pre-made for us, and all we'd have to do is drop it. So super smart idea to send them content and be weary of the messaging, not using any of the acronyms or anything that people don't understand. So if any of you that do work in the communications departments, consider writing out the script for them the way you would want it aired and providing that video. That is huge, and that'll increase your chances of coverage and regular coverage. It's really awesome. We did that. So in terms of social media, if we can change the slide over. Sorry. We were presented with a really interesting challenge last fall where the communications department was asked to create videos for youth in the subjects of career readiness. So typically the first idea was, okay, well, PowerPoint, here's how you make a resume, here's how you coach for an interview, here's how you do this. And I thought, there's no way that after almost 2 years of being on Zoom, that sending a PowerPoint with voiceover is going to engage students, nor do they even care about what's happening in the future. They are so over it. And so we did a few scripts, my colleague Candlelight and I, and we ripped them the first time because we thought there's just absolutely no way that they're going to sit and watch these. And there were supposed to be 10 videos that we were asked to do. So instead I thought, well, what they are doing, because I have a 15-year-old niece, is they're binging through Netflix when they are bored. If there's a screen that they're going to watch, it's going to be Netflix. And I'm not sure if any of you saw the series 13 Reasons Why when it did come out, and just how engaging and it was really intense. But I had that idea in my head, and I thought, if we're going to have these kids, these high school students, watch anything, it has to be dramatic, it has to have a story arc, it has to have characters and be bingeable. And I said this in DC, I don't know if that's even a word, but we want them to want to binge through career readiness preparation. Talk about a challenge. But what we ended up doing is we took a little bit of another program that we've been really successful in called Workforce Wednesday, where we partner with a high school to help us produce these weekly stories on our YouTube channel in terms of success stories, program promotion, services, job fairs, things like that. So we were already in the business of working with students and hands-on experience in terms of broadcast, but we kind of took it another level with this. Very close friend of mine that I did acting with turned out to be a theater director at one of the local high schools. And the original creator of this program, Grind Talk, which is the career readiness youth outreach navigator program that we have, she's now a marketing teacher at Montwood High School. So we used Riverside, who was our Workforce Wednesday group. We used Hanks, who was our theater acting group, and we used Montwood, who was our marketing group. And we put all three together, and we had them produce the series for us that was going to educate students about career readiness using a story arch with characters, protagonists, villains, all of that. It turned out to be the most amazing collaboration between three high schools, because not only did it get these students who were back at high school for the first time in 2 years immediately into a really exciting project, it taught them, as they were making this project, the hands-on experience to be actors, producers, directors, screenwriters, marketers, journalists, all of that rolled into one. And then the content that they produced was then put into classrooms. So these teachers, every time this series would be shown 30 to 45 times, and it just compounded from there. But the most amazing thing was that these students, when we first wrote the story, we sent 3 treatments. Candlelight did one, I did one, and one of the directors did one. And they looked at us and said, jocks are no longer popular. Nobody cares about cheerleaders. None of this is anything that we would say. So they essentially redlined every single thing about our scripting. And they had to sit with us and teach us how to speak the youth language. So they fixed the dialogue for us. They adjusted the story for us. And we ended up doing 6 scripts. And they rehearsed and they acted, and we brought in a professional production team, Double Scope Films, but they were super hands-on and super involved. So I'm not sure if we'll have time. I mean, I'll show the trailer, which is really short, but if you'd like to see an episode, they're about 4 minutes. So you let me know, Amy, if you'd like us to play that. But so it ended up being called Rise and Grind, and it's a story about Noah and Naveen, a brother and sister that just came out of COVID, and their mom was also not working. And it was just one of the challenges that a lot of these students were facing. So I'm going to go ahead and show. Can we expand the screen, Amy? I'll show you the trailer just to give you an idea of how beautifully produced this ended up being.
You need to work on this. No more flunking classes, no more reject interviews. It's not supposed to be like this. We need to talk. We are really running low on funds right now. I just have a ton of things going on. Please don't take that personally.
There you go again.
Doodling isn't going to pay the bills. Neither is the periodic table.
Is that what this is? You're paying bills? You know what happens to neglected potential? Nothing happens. And you short yourself.
And thank you. What ended up happening, so there were about a 5-minute show, and it was there was definitely conflict. Obviously, you saw the boyfriend getting upset because she didn't have time for him. There was a lot of time management, budget management, not knowing how to deal with pressure and innovation and using their own skills to be able to thrive. And so after the entertainment part, we had our Riverside kids come in and kind of do like a film review where they were kind of the old school Siskel and Ebert, where they were sitting and talking about the show and talking about, well, this is where she's actually learning how to budget. Did you see how she's learning how to budget here? And this is time management. If you don't have these soft skills, you're not going to be able to succeed. So they wrapped it up beautifully, and they produced those on their own. They used the teleprompter. It was magical. This entire production was magical. We spent over 2,000 hours collectively with 50 students. And Montwood, the marketing agency, they were a mock marketing agency. So what they did is produce a proposal as to how we were going to put this out there, how students were going to watch it. So they came up with ideas that only youth could come up with. So we used all of them as shadow boards, essentially, to help us produce the series. And we're getting ready for season 2 once we find the funding for it. But it was an amazing production. And if you go to next4solutions.com, just head over to the Grind Talk section if you want to watch it. But it was a super cool production that 4 weeks, 2,000 hours, 50 students, and we almost died over it, but it was super worth it. And then we did a premiere, a red carpet premiere with a paparazzi, high school students, paparazzi, and they got dressed up, and it was a beautiful scene. So I highly encourage that as an innovative way to approach students. It's on YouTube. They got it all on, they got it on their Instagram. So super cool way of collaboration, radical collaboration. Thank you. Nextforcesolutions.com. Just click on the Grind Talk button, and then it'll take you to the Rise and Grind series. Oh, another quick thing that the Montwood agency did is to ensure that this was going to bring value to the classrooms. This was their idea. They created dittos and worksheets and questionnaires for each episode. Like, what is Naveen learning here? Type of like little tests so that the teachers had an actual curriculum to go off of, which is why these teachers are using these skills. Like, oh, cool, this is a built-in lesson for me. So it worked wonderfully.
Thank you, Bianca. Moving on to our final topic, and Brian, I'll invite you to help us close out. We're just going to wrap up by talking about outreach that's working right now. Obviously, everything you've seen and heard today is what our panelists believe is working right now. But there's a few other topics that were really important for them to address. One of them is depicted by the slide, which may or may not be showing for you at this moment. And we wanted to just get across the idea that everyone is at a different place. Some people want that in-person engagement. Other people don't. They want to stay virtual. Other people are okay with hybrid. Some people are okay with one day and something different the next. And so it's really important that we understand our customers' constantly changing needs, and that we figure out how to meet them where they are. And then I think with that also just this idea of, whereas technology opportunities are syndicated, so should our content be. So Brian, why don't you close us out, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
There we go.
This may be Bianca. Did I mess up?
Oh, yeah.
Brian or Bianca, y'all
Is it the
pass the
podcast?
baton.
All right. Well, I'll transition over from the last word I used, which is radical collaboration. If you remember, I got that word yesterday. I learned it from Dr. Parrish, and radical collaboration was, to me, the sharing of ideas on a national level. And that's something that we actually picked up in the past year through the pandemic, is how do we find solutions to this very severe problem of a pandemic when it comes to the workforce? So in year one, we went for being podcast hosts. And we took a year to rehearse because we had no idea what we were doing. None of us had ever thought about having a podcast studio, but we knew the value in podcasting. So it took us about a year, but this year we're really on board. We're starting to bring in guests on a national level, and it's a form of outreach that is atypical, and it's mostly on a stakeholder business partnership level, not so much for job seekers, but it could very well also be for job seekers. But we started the Workforce Situation Room, and I know that we look like we're a rock band ready to like hurt somebody, but the reason we're so serious is because the Workforce Situation Room is a serious thing. It is like the war room when it comes to the post-pandemic issues that we face as a workforce development board. So we posed it that way because when we get into the studio, we have at least 3 talking points of very serious situations that we have on our hands as a workforce development board. And what I love about this podcast is it was inspired by the types of meetings that our leadership would have when we would be bringing up these situations. And I'm talking 4 women that put an idea on the table or put a problem on the table. And it's like The View, but with sometimes some vulgarities and some passion and some anger. And I said, this is great to hear the raw conversations happening between these leaders and how we're going to fix things and how we're going to innovate and push the envelope. I thought deserved a platform, deserved an audio platform. So that's where the Situation Room was born. But obviously we cleaned it up and we make sure it's presentable and that we don't have any FCC issues, but we do go to the Situation Room and we go serious knowing that we're going to have a raw conversation. All that they know is the 3 topics that I'm going to moderate on. And the rest, I leave it to them. I like, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And they bring in those solutions. They're very raw, organic conversations between the ladies of leadership here. So it's been great. And in this year, we started bringing in ideas from outside. Just like Dr. Parrish said, when you're within your own silo, you can only come up with so much. And bringing in ideas from other organizations, other cities, or state line breaking, you start to really see a completely different picture of how we can approach problems. That has been for us one of the most valuable things because it just brings a diverse way of solving a problem. It connects, it doesn't only help us solve a problem, it connects us with another part of the country that's maybe doing something similar. And it just, you start kind of creating a cohesive network of solutions building. Like over in Texas, they're doing this. Over in Florida, they're doing this. So it's a constant evolution of solutions building. And I highly encourage anybody that hasn't done a podcast to consider doing that for your organization because it just brings so much more. It's only once a month. All we do is sit down and squawk for a few minutes, maybe 45 minutes to an hour, and we send it off to our engineers and they take care of everything. So it's super valuable and we're starting to get more views. So I encourage you to listen. And if anybody wants to be a guest, we're happy to bring anybody on. I've also done some coaching with the podcasting for anybody that might be interested in doing it. Does anybody have any questions for me?
We'll open it up to questions. I did get a few questions before we started. So we can go to those unless anyone wants to start.
We've gone from
Not you. Any questions in the room? Yes, go ahead. And if we could get, can you take a microphone over there?
Okay.
Employees will be built up.
Sorry about that. Michelle, this question is actually for you because you mentioned that in your multi-channel discussion that you have key performance indicators for your social media. Could you kind of elaborate that on a little bit more? What some of those KPIs are?
So yes, we are looking at things like increased followers. So, are we able to capture our audience and grow our audience? Are we able to retain our audience? Are we getting the click-throughs, for example? And so I'm fumbling a little bit because I'm trying to remember exactly what I have written down on that paper. But yes, for each of these channels, it is slightly different. And we also have standards against kind of industry standards for that growth and for those rates. And so we are trying to hit those industry standards as well, but I can definitely share that with you. Okay.
Diana?
A question from our streamline. How can these concepts be adapted to rural parts of the state?
Brian, do you want to take that one?
Well, I think the thing that most boards, all of us really have to kind of embrace is just having a little bit of courage to experiment. I think the other thing as well is you can spread the wealth. Not one person has to do everything. As I was mentioning earlier with our communication meetings, really what we try to do is prioritize and see where our strengths are, and so you can really kind of provide different things so that one person is not working on everything. The other thing as well, and we've talked about this quite a bit in all of our TWC PIO meetings, is the idea of making sure that you're tapping into tools that are available. And a lot of tools are available for free. So whether you're using, for instance, Canva is one of those that people, I think all of our boards use, which is free. It's a nonprofit discount. You can actually take advantage of that. There's also a lot of video editing software that's at a really reduced price for nonprofits that is web-based. So you don't have to download anything. You can pretty much use it online, and you can have multiple people working on that and sharing ideas and really developing content together. I think it's just, I hate seeing this because I used to hear this all the time, but being more resourceful with the resources that you have and really seeing how you can spread it out a little bit more.
Thank you. Eunice?
And I have a message for Bianca. The Q code for full child education video is being sent.
Is the QR code being sent? Is that the question? I can most certainly send it.
It's a message to you.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Hi, Eunice with the Heart of Texas. I think you guys are doing a great job. It's really cool stuff you guys are doing. Grind Talk, question for you, Bianca.
Sure.
You talked about funding. Tell me a little bit about the funding and how you guys were able to pay for that.
We actually use the Career Outreach Fund, TANF funds. So what we did is we partnered with the production company that helped us with producing it. And we partnered with an outreach team, like an outreach organization, not an organization, another outreach company that helped us with coordinating all of the students and making sure that they were able to have the time. So they coordinated with the schools to put us into the schools, and they handled everything in terms of the event, the outreach, and getting all of the paid media done through promoting the series. So TANF funds, but I think where we're really worked out for us is that we did an RFP for both the production side of it, and we did an RFP for both the event outreach side of it, the event outreach and agency side of it. So essentially we were only working with two different contracts, although we had maybe, oh gosh, so many tentacles going on at the same time with all of those other sub vendors, but we made it work. That's the secret. 2 vendors.
Thank you. Question in the back of the room?
Hi. Oh, sorry. I'm Alan with Alamo. I had a question for Michelle in regards to your social media platforms. I know that you do have like set measures that you guys do want to try and meet, but in regards to the team, is that split between existing team members, or do you guys have a social media team that's separate from programmatic or workforce related duties?
So the question of resources is something that everybody always has. And so you might be surprised that I have one direct report to support all of this activity. But I beg, borrow, steal, and cheat in order to get volunteers from the contractors to help me out with this. So in terms of the mechanics of who does the work for this, it's a combination. I do have one person who is a really good writer. That is my one direct report, my one staff person at the board, who is responsible for the majority of the writing. We have then contractor staff who share So it's not even an FTE. They share the responsibility of scheduling all the posts. We also have a mechanism, like many others do, for anybody across our big workforce solution system to provide content in. So in addition to what I'm going to say, you know, our strategic messages, we do have a great deal of program messages that are going out. And so it's shared. It's basically a shared responsibility. Does that answer your question?
Are on payroll specifically for social media duties. It is shared throughout the existing staff.
That's correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe we're just about out of time. So let's give a big round of applause to our panelists. And I'm sure they're willing to stick around for a few minutes if you have any one-on-one questions. Thank you so much for joining us.
I have podcast cards, guys.